Welcome to this evening's Muskogee Municipal Authority, June 13th, 2016. Roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Gully. Dan Hall.
Present.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van. Derek Reed.
Here.
Regular agenda, item number 1.
Consider approval of MMA minutes for May 9th, 2016.
Everybody had a chance to review them. Is there any additions or corrections?
Move for approval.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 2.
Consider approval of MMA claims for the month ending May 2016.
Mr. Tucker, we're going to give you that one. Is that okay?
Of course. Mayor, members, Mr. Chairman, members of the authority, this is the transfer of funds collected by the Muskogee Municipal Authority on utility rates. That is being requested to transfer over to the general fund. That is $878,222.18. $255,800 will remain in the account for debt service on the MMA's loans. The total request, as I said, is $878,222.18. With those claims, the total amount that we're discussing today is $1,134,022.18. Happy to answer any questions, but I recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 3.
Consider approval of a resolution approving the Muskogee Municipal Authority, Muskogee, Oklahoma budget for fiscal year 2016-2017 and establishing budget amendment authority or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the authority. The budget that we have prepared for this coming year for FY17, we have an anticipated $13,438,714 in anticipated revenue. Again, that comes from water and sewer revenue. We anticipate expending that same amount for expenditures of $13,438,714 in expenditures. The expenditures broken down are approximately $9.8 million transferred to the general fund, similar to the claims that we've just approved, with $3.069 million that'll be retained in the fund for debt service. And then the $500,000 that we do have set aside for various infrastructure improvements, that $500,000 represents the 5% utility increase for water and sewer. Again, that was pursuant to a resolution where those funds were to remain in MMA to be expended only for the MMA purposes. With this, I make a recommendation that we approve the budget based on the figures presented. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
Move for approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. And that concludes our agenda for the Muskogee Municipal Authority. And if I can get this to switch over, we will go to a new agenda. Now go to the Muskogee Parking Authority agenda. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Yeah, here.
Marlon Coburn.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Marlon, I didn't know which one to answer.
Well, I don't have my glasses on.
You help me and I'll help you. Okay. We're all accounted for. Item number 1.
Consider approval of the minutes of the Special Call Parking Authority for November 17th, 2015.
Have we got a motion in that regard, or is there additions or corrections?
Move the approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 2.
Consider approval of a resolution approving the Muskogee Parking Authority, Muskogee, Oklahoma, budget for fiscal year 2016-2017, and establish budget amendment authority or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker again.
Mr. Chairman, trustees, we have the proposed fiscal year 2017 budget before you. It's on page 136 of the budget packet. We anticipate $67,726 in revenue, with expenditures of $155,000 on parking lot improvements. We do have a carryover of $836,391.95, meaning we have a total amount of revenue inclusive of the carryover of $904,117.95. As you all may remember, revenue coming into this account is from the various parking lots the city owns due to lease and rental, or our most recent parking lot is the pay-to-park public box over on G and Callahan Street. And so revenue is derived from that. We generally use these funds for parking lot improvements, and in this instance, we do have $155,000 that is set aside specifically. If other projects come forward for lots that we do need to pave, we'll bring that forward to the council for approval. Additionally, one of the other investments that the fund makes is into the sinking fund. Sometimes we will have funds that are, judgments against the city that we'll need to pay off immediately. So in those instances, what we'll do is assign the judgment to the parking authority, place it on the sinking fund, and then the parking authority will get those revenues as an investment. And so we've done that for many years now. And so currently I don't believe we've got any that are established to be assigned to the parking authority. But nonetheless, we like to have some excess available for that purpose. And that allows us, of course, the opportunity, if a tort claim is filed against the city, for us to be able to pay that quickly rather than have the claimant have to wait for approximately 3 years to get the funds back from the sinking fund. So that's, again, not on every claim, but in certain claims of any size we do that. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I recommend approval.
Questions or comments?
Move the approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion at all? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, and that concludes our agenda. That motion passes, and that concludes our agenda for the Parking Authority. We'll now move to the Muskogee City Council, June 13, 2016. The invocation this evening will be by Councilman Wayne Johnson, and then join us in the flag salute following.
Would bow with your heads with me tonight. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, as we come to you tonight, dear Lord, I ask that you would be with the United States tonight, as there's so much hurt from the violence that occurred this weekend. Dear Lord, I ask that you would be with the families that lost loved ones, be with those that are healing. Dear Lord, I ask that your hands would be with each and every one of them. Dear Lord, I ask that you would be with the council tonight. Give us the wisdom that we need as we're looking over a budget and have been looking over a budget for so long. I ask that you would give us the wisdom and the direction that we need. We don't know what the future holds, but I'm so thankful, dear Lord, that you, in your wisdom, you do. As we're approaching upon a wonderful time in Muskogee's future of G-Fest, I ask that you would be with the officers, with everyone that's putting together the event, that you would bring us peace and harmony and a great time to experience the vitality of our community. And these things we ask and pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Join us if you would for the flag salute. Attention. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully. Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston. Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van. Derek Reed.
Here.
We have a quorum. We'll now consider the minutes from the,
Excuse Scully.
whoops, I'm sorry. We have a couple that need to be excused, I understand. Okay?
Motion to excuse.
Okay. Councilman Gully.
Gully and Van.
Van.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. That motion carries. We'll now consider the minutes.
Madam Clerk, did Councilman Kell vote yes or here?
Yes,
Okay.
I voted here.
Just to clarify.
We considered it a yes. We'll now consider the minutes from the City Council regular session of May the 23rd, special call June the 2nd, and the special call from June the 7th. So there'll be 3 sets of minutes under consideration. And I would entertain a motion
Move for approval.
those.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We'll now consider the consent agenda, which would be items 1 through 12. Is there anything anyone would like to move to regular agenda? If not, we'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I like to move forward with that.
Move forward with the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay,
I was going to have something removed, but I changed my mind.
okay.
Second.
And that would be in form of a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Item number 13 on the regular agenda.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of an ordinance to close the 20-foot alley running north and south and the 20-foot alley running east and west, both located within Block 63 of the Muskogee Original Town Site, more particularly described in the ordinance, providing for severability and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin, and we'll consider ourselves in a public hearing.
Mayor, members of the council, we'd ask that you strike this item from the agenda. The applicant, D. Boots, met with the Public Works Department. The Public Works Department has come up with a way to resolve the water runoff issue on Mr. Boots' property, which does not require closing the alley. If for some reason that does not solve the problem, we'll republish, send out new notices, and put it back on the agenda. But this time, we'd ask that you strike it.
So we don't need a date or anything,
No,
just strike it
we'll
from the
republish it. It
agenda.
needs to come back.
Okay. We'll move to item number 14.
Consider approval of an ordinance amending the City of Muskogee Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 18, Pedestrians, Section 78-652, Walking Alone Roadway, providing for repealer, severability, and setting an effective date, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Vesey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. At this point, I would recommend we strike this item based on some of the concerns which were expressed at the last meeting. I would like time to further review those concerns and bring this matter back before council when it's more appropriate.
If we keep striking things, I told my wife I'd be till 10 o'clock, so I'm going to be in trouble. I'll show them early.
No luck in
We'll
that.
strike number 14. Item number 15.
Receive report from Muskogee County Public Transit Authority as to the financial condition, progress, and achievement of providing public transportation, as well as consider approval to renew the cooperative agreement for fiscal year 2017, subject to budget adoption, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. If you all will remember, this was forwarded from the Public Works Committee, where it was, if I remember, forwarded without recommendation for the purpose of addressing some of the council's questions. What I have placed in front of you on your desk is some trip statistics that were provided to us by by John this morning. To look over, and hopefully it will answer some of the questions. John is here if you have any specific questions for him, but what I remember being asked is the number of passengers that were served, as well as a question from Councilwoman Boydston concerning the miles per gallon of the trolley. Miles per gallon of the trolley was not included in that packet of statistics, but that is 12 miles per gallon. And the total amount of trips, the total number of riders is 97,698. And that includes not only those within the city, but also with the county. happy to answer any questions or,
Did we ever find out if you could actually have them come pick you up at your house and take you to the airport for $1.50?
John, do you want to speak to that?
That was amazing to me. I'm getting ready to go to the airport, and I may need you.
John, speak to us from the microphone, would you please?
Good evening. No, that's not correct. For like if you want to go to the airport, it would be $20 round trip non-medical.
Okay.
And to do that, we would have to place you. We run medical trips daily there, but we place you with a medical rider, and it would be $20 round trip. We know the other transit agencies within our surrounding areas charge $1 per mile, but we do charge for that $20.
It's $1 per mile. is
No,
what-
that's what the other transit agencies that surround us charge, $1 per mile, but we would charge $20 a round trip.
Okay, when someone told us that, I was almost like, wow.
Yeah, that's not.
Because we're getting ready to take like 50 people to Mexico, and I was like, hey, I got to ride to the airport, guys. I appreciate that answer.
Be
Thank you.
careful, he'll try to fill up a trolley and take the whole group.
I'm curious, on a non-medical, do they have to fit their schedule in with your schedule?
Yes, but we run 4 routes there per day.
Okay.
And, I discussed the last time, we get 24 hours advance, we can fit that in the schedule.
Thank you.
Can I clarify something, John, off of Dan's question? We specifically talked about his question was specific to the Tulsa airport,
Right.
but what if on your on-call service, how far will you take somebody for the $1.50?
The $1.50 will be within the county. I've got my briefcase with the list of rides, but it would be within the county.
So from one point in the county to another point in the county, it's $1.50?
County residents come in for a $1.50 round trip, and city residents is 75 cents per ride. But then we run the medical routes 4 times a day to Tulsa. If somebody that didn't qualify for Medicaid desired a ride to Tulsa, we could provide that, because part of our funding from ODOT is called Inner City, and that's to connect with airports and bus stations. So we can do that.
So you'd go all the way to Briartown and pick up someone, which is in the very southeast corner of Muskogee,
Yes.
and bring them all the way here and then take
Yes.
them back? Not a bad deal.
Is a trip a round trip or per one
Okay,
way?
as the city routes is per stop, 75 cents per stop. County is $1.50 per round trip, and they get 3 stops for the $1.50. They might want to go to Walmart, mall, Walgreens. Anything over that 3 stops, we're going to have to charge them $1.50 again. But normally we don't have any problems with the 3 stops.
But a round trip to the airport, if you take them and they're gone for a week and come back and want to be brought back to Muskogee,
If they call us 24 hours in advance, we could do that.
but is it $20 each way or still round trip?
$20 round trip.
Okay.
Well, now, that's a tricky question right there. the more that I think about that, you said they leave and gone a week.
Yeah, they're going to Florida or somewhere.
It would be $20. It would be another $20 for that.
Oh, okay.
Because I was getting ready to call you, right?
So it's $20 per 24-hour notice call.
Yes.
That's still a bargain.
It is.
Further comments or questions?
I would still be interested in seeing the number of passengers served. We're seeing the number of riders, but a lot of these riders are the same passengers.
Yes, they are.
Do you have a distinguishing between passengers served? Because that's what I'm interested in seeing. What number of passengers are we serving in the city?
That'd be hard to do.
No, we can do that. I can get that. I just thought it was a number of riders, and I talked to you this morning and got that together, but they get that.
I just think that would be really good to know of how many people we are actually serving in our community.
How would you define someone being served? I mean, when you, how would you differentiate that from a passenger?
If I'm riding the bus, I'm being served by bus service.
I mean,
But
what's the
one
difference in
person
that
might
and a
ride
passenger?
365.
Right,
I ride 365 times, and I'm coming up in those numbers 365 times.
He wants to know
Okay.
how many
Okay.
people are
I'm with
taking
you.
advantage,
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
not how many trips they take.
Yes, okay, I got you.
So, it's running up a whole lot of numbers, but it may just be one person.
So if a person rides every day in a week, that's still just servicing one person? Even
Yeah,
though
or they
would-
could be taking multiple trips, but it's showing up as trips.
Right.
It's passenger trips.
You want to know the number of persons that are, yeah, I understand that.
That would be interesting.
That's something you have in your,
Yes, I can get that.
you can? Okay. All right.
Because we need to see number of clients being served.
I can get that for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Other information needed?
Move for approval?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, that concludes and passes item 15. We'll go to item number 16. I'm sorry. Whoops.
I forgot.
Teresa Rutlinger, come talk to us. Name and address, and you have 5 minutes to discuss item number 15.
Won't take 5 minutes.
Okay.
Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. One of the suggestions I had, and I think I've suggested it in the past, is we do kind of like what San Antonio does. Have a pass for people over 65, or do a monthly pass or something like that with a slight discount. And it might be just like credit cards where people pay for it and they don't always use it, but that might also help people too. If they've already got it sitting there, they might use it a little bit more if they've already paid for it. I know when we visited San Antonio, my parents were both elderly and they got their photo taken and everything. And it was good for 4 years, and they got to ride all over San Antonio for free and camp for 4 years. But we're not in that situation, I know that. But I thought possibly a monthly ticket or something like that might get a little bit more action. Don't know if it's going to cost more in the long run, but it would be a possibility that you might want to try out for a short period of time.
Thank you. Appreciate your input. Now we'll go to item number 16.
Receive year-end report from retail attractions for activities in fiscal year 2015-16 and discuss and take action on utilizing the professional services of Retail Attractions LLC for fiscal year 2016-2017.
Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As part of our housekeeping matters, in reviewing our past experiences with our outside contractors and then considering renewing them, we invited Mr. Hayes with Retail Attractions to come to present on what our economic development forecast has been and where we were before last year and what our successes have been this year. Now, obviously, existing developments, which may be confidential, obviously will not be talked about in his presentation. However, I did ask him to prepare some statistics to be prepared to talk about those. Additionally, Mr. Hayes and I have had some conversations on the contract renewal, and he has agreed with approval of the council to maintain his current rate, which is $4,000 per month for his consulting services. And then with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hayes so he can make his presentation, then we can have questions and answers.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Mayor, members of the council, it's an honor to be with you again. And this year is completely almost to me. Last year at this time, I really didn't know where we were going to be in a year. We just were about to open Dick's and TJ and several national retailers here, but I really didn't know about the continuation of the momentum from Quick Trip and the phase one of the URA development and recent additions to staff. Mr. Miller, for one, and always the good work of Mr. Garvin and his team has brought a new and quite refreshing relationship between not only our company but also inside City Hall, to where there's almost an excitement and a very hopeful look at the future, that the growth that we've seen in Muskogee might continue. In this past year, not only did we represent the fine city of Muskogee at 2 ICSC events, one in Dallas last November, which led to a couple of interesting developments that we're going to see probably manifest later this calendar year in the Shawnee corridor. But then again this May in Las Vegas, where we joined about 40,000 people and walked many, many miles, again to share not only the dynamics of the Muskogee retail market, but now with the addition of the 3 corners at 69 in Shawnee, with Quick Trip developed and opened in the past 12 months, seeing those 3 corners planned by a professional design group of engineers and architects from Tulsa. I'm happy to tell you that we've had our first confirmed inquiries into those areas. That has been, I knew it would come, but my feeling is that the momentum that is in the Shawnee corridor and with the remaining URA land, I didn't know how much attention we'd get on the 3 corners until that fully developed. And we're starting to get, we got an inquiry into a restaurant site that was interested only in the 3 corners area last Friday. We still have a lot of attention going in the URA Phase 2 area. But I wanted to give you a rundown of what our services provided for the city. Since July 1st of 2015, we have spoken and shared market data, potential site information, and other things regarding either building regulations or some type of development question with over 200 different development groups, many of those national groups who develop major retail in many states in the country. Some of those were with regional groups, but most of those were with national developers. We've contacted and shared information with 377 different restaurants about your city. Those have been documented in month-to-month reports that are provided to Mr. Tucker's office, and that he and Mike and others review. And we've contacted over 714 to be to the point, of retailers, from soft goods to big box to discount retailers that would very much like to see manifest in your community. Without going into a lot of detail, a couple of things that came out of Vegas. One big soft goods retailer that had looked at Muskogee previously, 50,000-foot user, is back looking and considering new sites. We feel like that Muskogee is still there was a strong interest from this retailer prior to the Phase 1 completion. They were the target anchor for the initial Phase 1. Many of you who've got good memories might remember the name of that retailer, but they are back again. And then there is a couple of grocery-related retailers that have come back again and are circling around again. So I'm excited about the Phase 2 of the URA. We're excited about the 3 corners, and also have gotten some confirming discussion and dialogue concerning other spots in Muskogee, mainly the Peak and York area in the south part of the township. So that's a brief summary of our services. Again, it's an honor to work for you. It's an honor to represent your city. I'm happy to answer any questions you have and would like to work for you another year.
Questions or comments?
Do I need to hang around for the exec? Okay.
If you would.
I'm good.
Anyone got a question or a comment? Are we ready to move to the next item? We're not going to forget you, Teresa. Pam's keeping me right on track.
We don't.
Teresa Rellinger, item 16.
Part of the item is to renew.
Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. All positive, but I'm going to put a dampener on it. Last year I stood up here and was concerned about Wagner being represented by Mr. Hayes, figuring it was kind of close to us. Muskogee County's even closer to us, and he's working with Muskogee County. I don't know how that's going to affect us if they start building different grocery stores or, Family Dollars or whatever. I don't know what Muskogee County has in mind. That's taking sales tax from us. I still think it's a little bit of a conflict of interest. Maybe I just don't understand how this concept works. But I am concerned that we've got one person that's dealing with us, with Muskogee County now, Wagner, some of the other places here, and I don't know. You talk to one company, and you've got 4 or 5 different places they can go. If they don't like Muskogee, well, we'll just go and put them in Muskogee County, or we'll go and put them in Wagner or something like that. I don't know. Since that's a flat rate, I guess that they're not splitting. It's not like we're getting charged 100%, or it cost me $1,000 to go this way, so we'll split it 4 ways or anything. So it's a flat fee. So that answered one of my questions. But I'm still a little bit concerned. I think Mr. Hayes has been bringing a lot into this town, but it just doesn't settle right with me.
Sure can. Mr. Hayes, you want to address that for a moment?
I'd love to respond.
Jump in there.
No, you have every reason to ask. It's a good question. Let me kind of you reference not understanding the process. Let me bring some light to that. Muskogee, with its population base and pull area, is always going to pull a caliber of retail that probably would never look at Wagner, certainly wouldn't look at Weber's Falls or Warner or some of the smaller communities in the rural areas in Muskogee County. We did a one-time service for Commissioner Doak where we took 10 Muskogee County, some of them are probably not even incorporated, some of them are areas where 50 to 150, 200 people live. We did demographic data on all of those markets that were defined as a township or a city, and did those market analysis, and we presented those to the 3 dollar store groups: Family Dollar, Dollar General, and Dollar Tree. Dollar General had interest in 3 of those 10 communities, and we'll be doing site tours on those in the near future. But those services are merely convenience-oriented options, so those residents who are still going to come to Muskogee to buy the majority of their goods and services in the retail world are not. It's not going to steal your sales tax. It's not going to keep those folks from entering your market, which they do every day anyway. It was more of an attempt by the county to provide some retail services to the outlying area, and so those services are done. We have, in fact, that contract was a 4-month deal, and it is done, and so those services are not even in effect anymore. We do work in Fort Gibson as well. We work in 75 communities. Our company has worked in 370 cities in 37 states. So we work, and I've said this takes a little broadening of a lot of folks' understanding, but the more cities that we work in, the more retailers we get to interface and have relationships with for Muskogee. So I can break that down a little bit for you and kind of give you some firsthand feedback on that. But it's really good for the city for us to work in diverse markets. your community is one of the 4 or 5 micropolitan markets in the state of Oklahoma. And I can tell you, we work in Enid, Altus, Ada, McAllister, Salisal, Claremore, Miami, and there's probably 10 or 20 more that are micropolitan markets like yours, but I can tell this group of elected officials there is no city in Oklahoma, including the urban areas of Tulsa and Oklahoma City, that has as much retail attention and activity going on as Muskogee, Oklahoma, right now. And that is from a lot of driving and a lot of talking and a lot of dialogue between those communities. We're working in a lot of those different settings. Your city has more retail activity right now than any other city in the state except Enid. And Enid doesn't have any more than yours. It has about the same because most of the retailers that are looking at your community right now are looking at 2 or 3 sites in the state. And Enid and Ada, Durant, McAllister. McAllister is it's considered actually a part of your trade area. If we could get you, if you can get your arms around that. If a retailer had a choice between McAllister and Muskogee, they'd come to Muskogee because McAllister actually is a part of our pool catchment area for your services and goods. Mayor?
Well, and I wouldn't have believed that until the other day. I found 3 people from McAllister that were shopping at our Walmart here because their Walmart didn't have stuff.
Correct.
And I guess that brings me to my biggest question over the last 4 years is that when you come up and you tell us about all these places that's in, and you talk about all having Fort Gibson, Wagner, McAllister, sometimes it leads us to wonder how specific are you just for us sometimes, and you just answer that question by saying you're not. But that's how you do your business, is that you have a whole big net of fish and you reach in and they reach in and grab the one they want. Basically a way to look at it. Sometimes they look for the big fish, sometimes they look for whatever they need at that time.
Correct.
What really drives me crazy right now is that I was down at a little place in Chakotah this weekend, and my brother introduced me to a guy, and he goes, "When are y'all going to get a steakhouse?" And that's my deal. You know that I was coming with it.
I wondered if that was going to come up.
Yeah.
Hey.
I started to stop you before you started and say, I know it was steak related, right?
But you know what he told me? That him and his family drive to Salisal to eat at the Western Sizzler because we don't even have a Western Sizzling here. That is crazy. Knowing what I know from the previous owner that had the Western Sizzling here, that they want a better steakhouse even to keep from driving down there. And I'm not bad-mouthing Salisal because they got a steakhouse, so we don't. And that just, because of the small area that they are, I'm telling you, I'd settle for a Western Sizzling again. And that's, I've been fighting for a steakhouse for the last 4 years.
Don't settle for Western Sizzling.
I'm not. But
I shared some information with you privately today.
And that's why I was reluctant to bring it up. But it's just to find out that you have people from McAllister that are driving all the way up here. And it was a more mature lady. Mm-hmm. She was
somebody my age, is what
probably
you're saying.
close to you and Bob. But it was sorry, Bob.
Putting us in the same boat now.
The deal is that she came all the way up here and she bought a tent and she bought some other things that they ran out of in McAllister, and they were here, and it wasn't anything else. She turned around and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And she waved at another lady. She goes, "She's from Wagner, me and McAllister too." And I was like, wow. So we do pull. It is frustrating because as city councilmen, there's a shopping center out there, and we were really wanted to fill up, but I was brought to lunch today and reminded that the first Three Rivers section took a while to get motivated and get going. So we just kind of, we're like a horse heading to the barn. We want to hurry up and get there.
And I know that it's the hardest job that we have is convincing elected officials a lot of times that this process takes the time that it takes. Restaurants any restaurants normally are not matrix breakers. They follow. And they sit in front of other anchor type tenants, and we've never been before in the situation we are in now with the phase 2 prospects that we're looking at for the URA. And I can tell you, Counselor, that you're going to be very happy with not only the caliber of restaurants that we're discussing, but their aggressiveness to get here. 2 of which are steak restaurants. And one of them literally responded to a phone call last week, and after discussion of Muskogee demographics and some assurances of depth in the market, said, hey, we'll be at your office Tuesday morning, 8:45, to discuss Muskogee. So we're going to meet them tomorrow face to face, and if you can and then they're going to go from my office to drive the market. This particular operator is an Arkansas operator, and they're just now kind of coming into the state.
Trust me, I looked it up.
You approve?
I approve.
Okay, and but there's another one as well. So I think the council will be very satisfied with this next wave, not only of retail tenants, but of restaurants specifically that you'll see open hopefully very soon.
What people don't realize is, by and large, these retail operations have a strict, unwavering standard or protocol of market analyses that they'll accept. They won't even talk to you if you don't have this, this, and this, if you don't have this many people in your community, if your outlying county doesn't have this, incomes, households, rooftops that are homes that are 125, rooftops that are homes that are 240. And I understand that regardless of whatever community in or around or close by, there's no way those will ever be considered at all. They're looking for little retail opportunities that are looking at a whole different tier of information. What I assume your job is to, number one, make a lot of folks aware of what we have that fits in their
correct
little black book, and number two, those retail operations that are on the margins, you do what you can do to convince them that
correct.
It's going to be okay. You need to give us a shot.
Most of the retail, most of the issues that we've had on that question, on that comment, have to do not with the population, but if you drive into Muskogee, those of us who haven't had the privilege of seeing the community from a lot of different angles, in and out, normally access from 69 or 62, or a lot of people come by on the turnpike, they don't even know you're down here. They drive right by you. And so, and I'll give you the recent comment from a guy we had in a helicopter that wasn't feeling strongly that the market area, the pool area, was as big as we were boasting it was. And we filed a flight plan from Tulsa that took us at 1,200 feet directly from Tulsa International to Shawnee Bypass. And then our idea was to swing out in circles, concentric circles, and cover an area that would end up being Sallisaw to the southeast, McAllister to the south and west, and to go up and catch all of Wagner and all up over the 412 and 69 corridor all the way to Siloam Springs, really. And we made about 2 loops, and the gentleman said, all right, I see it. Because right outside of Muskogee, for those of you that I know I'm preaching to the choir here, so to speak, but if you get up in the hills out toward Gruber and out, there's lots of houses out there. Lots of people. When you get up, Fort Gibson looks like Muskogee. It's sitting, Wagner actually looks like Muskogee. The city is spread out in such a great detail. And so now these retailers are starting to see it. And even more regional retailers that we've worked on now for 2 or 3 years that have come and looked at the market and backed off again have now kind of satisfied those pool area demands and are coming back and taking a second look. And with the city in control like we are on the URA land, I'm a lot more objectively optimistic that we're going to land some of those that we missed the first go-round.
I hope you recorded your helicopter tour.
It was well recorded. But that's, and again, to Sweet Lady's question, it's really it's a service to the city of Muskogee for us to represent some of these other communities, because retail that'll actually go out into some of these other communities is retail that would probably take up dirt in Muskogee where we might get a prime, let me just say a level above to stick here that wouldn't go because somebody else was already sitting on that dirt. Does that make sense?
Well, from my perspective, we're a lot more likely to rob an opportunity from a community smaller than us than they are to rob an opportunity from us. No doubt about that.
And the retail that might want to go to a Fort Gibson or a Wagner, again, would take up valuable, because they're not making any more dirt. And we want your market's big enough to support what we call the big anchor tenants, and we're getting looks from them now. So it all works together. It's all kind of part of the plan.
And Mr. Hayes, I think that I'm gonna give you 4 areas. You don't have to discuss or comment on any or all of them in the interest of time, but I think listing these 4 areas will give you an opportunity to also demonstrate why it's important that we have the same type of organization, not only in the city but sometimes also in the county, to serve our best interests. But I think about Dallas, I think about Houston, I think about Anne Arundel County in Maryland, and I think about Prince George's County in Maryland, how those areas are so convoluted with overlapping counties that it serves them or could serve them to their best interest, like it does us, to have someone like Retail Consultants knowing what the other areas are doing to kind of navigate, to be certain that even if something got placed in the outlying areas, it actually adds value to Muskogee without taking away from it.
I agree. That's very well said, Counselor. And I'm happy to tell you that there are several Oklahoma communities that are looking into the methods and the strategies that the city of Muskogee used to create a very sophisticated area like the Urban Renewal Authority. We're seeing other cities take a look at that. You guys kind of broke that. Owasso was, in our early days, really was one of the first cities in Oklahoma to consider public-private partnerships. You've taken that and went to another level with it and actually try to reinvigorate an area of your community that was, dilapidated and underserved. And other cities now are copying you guys. And that speaks well of your vision and the strategic planning that has come out of Gary's office and from the staff.
Well, one, I want to let you know we got plenty of dirt.
Yes, well, we do, but they're not making any more.
And we got plenty of vacant buildings downtown that I'd love to show you that we can get space into.
Now,
so,
we're talking to some Tulsa restaurateurs who are interested in the downtown area.
Okay, well, just let me know.
Yeah.
Because I want to let you know we've got plenty of opportunity.
I'm with you.
And you've let us know that it's not a conflict of interest for you to work with these surrounding communities. Let us know what values. I do see that it would be a conflict of interest. At what point is it a conflict of interest for you?
you know, when we start a relationship with the community, there's almost a targeted need that community has. Wagner, if you are familiar with their situation here, you are selling groceries to that community. They're driving 15 miles, 15 minutes to get groceries. Now they've got a Walmart, but their Walmart has very few grocery items. And what grocery items they stock are not part of, and you say, well, you're taking our sales tax back to Wagner. No, the grocery retailers like Aldi and a couple of the ones that are looking at our community now are groceries that would never go to Wagner. They'd come to Muskogee and would still pull some Wagner dollars, but Wagner's need was for a community grocery store. And so that's why they hired us. They targeted us for that one thing. And we had a grocery deal for them, and the grocer stood publicly and said they were coming, and then 90 days later said, no, we're not coming. So, you know, to think of when, I can't think of a conflict. My time is, you know, there's only 24 hours in a day, but we have a fairly organized, strategic recruiting operation going. I've got 7 people doing it, some at night, some in the daytime, all contractors working different hours. And I can't think of a way that we would. Our goal is to bring retail to Muskogee. That's what you pay me for. We've got efforts that I can show you what we're doing, and I can also show you it's working. So, you know, I think the conflict is getting the right retailers on the right dirt. And some of the retailers we're talking to, you couldn't give them free buildings downtown and make them come because they want to go out where the other retailers are. That's their model. It's what makes them. It's what drives their ship, so to speak. But you know, I don't really know how to answer your question. I think that if I, you know, if it was possible for me to steal your retailers and take them to Wagner, that might be a conflict, but that's not going to happen. So, you know, like I said, the deal with the county was a request, almost a desperate plea for some help for some outlying county communities. That work's been done. We honored our commitment, and so whether anything happens with that, I don't know. But
I'm more inclined to agree with Councilman Coleman's assessment of the positive aspect of dealing broadly and knowing what everybody's doing and working. Everything kind of grows upon itself together.
Yep. I mean, I think that's a correct assumption because it allows us not only, it was just a broader dialogue with the retailers and knowledge of what they want to do. Mr. Tucker?
Other comments or questions?
Yeah.
Are we ready to make a motion of some kind regarding this item on number 16?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there discussion or comment? Roll call.
Janie Boydston?
Yes.
Patrick Cale?
Yes.
Marlon Coleman?
Yes.
Wayne Johnson?
No.
Derek Reed?
Yes.
Dan Hall?
Yes.
Mayor Coburn?
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 17.
Consider approval of a resolution approving the City of Muskogee budget for fiscal year 2016-2017 and establishing budget amendment authority or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker again.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. At last week's special call meeting, during the public hearing section, I went over in detail the budget that was presented. Additionally, we have some copies up front if anybody in the audience would like one. Just to summarize, we did delay adoption of the budget for a week to allow some additional time for review and for questions. I didn't receive but just a couple of questions, and I think that those were answered, at least the person or persons who'd asked seemed to indicate that they were answered. So I just want to very briefly go over what the general overview of this budget is without getting into the specifics yet again. Total funds available, $75,244,249.26. That comprises all funds of the city, not just the general fund. Within that $75 million, and that's, of course, based on projections, we have approximately $60 million in expenses. And so when we drill down from that number and look at the city's major operating account, which is the general fund, in that account we have projected revenue of $34.4 million with projected expenses of $34,354,000. Last time I reported that left us with $51,647 as a remainder, which is money that is carried below the bottom line and which is not budgeted. Based on the discussion last time, the council did ask that an additional $19,000 be allocated to the Roxy. So taking into that account, that leaves $32,647 as a remainder unbudgeted funding. One of the things that we did when we were making the modification, cleaning up the language, because one of our readers in the audience was kind enough to point out typos and things like that. So we were going through and making those corrections. She's not here tonight, by the way, but one of the things that we did was just go ahead and double check our numbers as we were preparing the final budget. We noticed that there was a line item for the Civic Center that was budgeted twice. So we've made a modification to remove that, which will leave an additional $100,000 that is unbudgeted toward the bottom line. So once that correction has been made and the $19,000 that was reallocated to the Roxy for the Oxford contract, that will leave us with $132,647 in the general fund that is unbudgeted. That amount does not change the revenue projection increase of 1.73% over the fiscal 2016 budget, nor does it change the projected expenses, representing a 5.75% decrease from the prior year. So that's where we are on the budget. This item, as I said, was moved to this meeting to allow for additional time for questions. Treasurer Kingston has graciously agreed to attend this meeting, even though it was her day off. So if there are any further questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I met with Ms. Rutlinger last week. She had a couple additional questions, and I think she's signed up to speak tonight. So we can address those as they come up. But other than that, that's all I have, unless there are questions from council.
Do we want to hear Mrs. Rutlinger's question at this point or comment? Teresa, would you give us one more time? Name and address.
Teresa Rutlinger, 2500 Shelby Court. Can I take my answers after my comments?
Can you what?
I said, can you go and answer after I do all my comments? Otherwise, I'm going to run out of time like I did almost last week.
Oh.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the way our agenda comment is set up is for her to have her 5 minutes, and then if council would like to interact or speak, there's an additional 5 minutes provided within the decorum rules.
Okay.
Okay, I'm already down to 4 minutes and 36 seconds.
We need to speak quick. Let's go.
Well, okay. City budget. You are allocating $618,000 to the Chamber of Commerce, and I guess that's like a third-party contract like we're doing for the Roxy and the Civic Center. I noticed that in the budget that tourism pays $600 a month rent to the chamber for, I guess it's for the room where they have all the T-shirts and all the little knick-knack stuff, as well as the conference room. With money the way that it is, I didn't know if there is a building or if we can, place it someplace else possibly. And I don't know. I've never been to our tourism thing out there on 69, if they're even selling T-shirts and that. It seems like that would be a logical place if they're not. On the payroll, I couldn't figure out exactly how many people are on the payroll for tourism. I know that there is one lady that, Marcy Diaz, I probably slaughtered her name. I apologize. She's the new tourism director, and I understand that there are two people that are kind of split their time between chamber and the chamber business and the tourism business. Yet, depending on how many total people are employed by the chamber and what have you, they're splitting stuff right down the middle. 50%. Tourism pays 50% of the equipment rental. They pay 50% of communications. They pay 50%. Well, they pay web maintenance for $10,000. I guess that's separate from the chambers. Advertising is really high, and I don't know what they're doing as far as the advertising goes. It would be kind of nice to see a breakdown of that. But I thought a fairer way would be do a percentage. If you've got, maybe a total of 2 people that are doing tourism, and you've got 8 people that are strictly doing Chamber of Commerce stuff, then that's 1/5 versus having to pay half. To me, that's just a fairer way. And that might be free up some more money to where maybe you can get more money for the Roxy or the 5 Civilized Tribe Museum or something like that. And how do we evaluate who gets the rest of the tourism money? Is the budget allocated? How is the budget allocated? Perhaps we should use the outcome measurement. That way everybody will be judged the same. And, if you're not doing a good job with the money they give you, then maybe more should go to somebody else. The second thing is when is your search for the city manager going to begin? If it already is in progress, how many applications have you received? We currently have an assistant manager, which is the first time, which we haven't had in the past, so perhaps we cannot pay a city manager as much, which would help a little bit on the payroll and or on the budget. And we're not funding all of the capital expenditures. So do the departments have to find another source, or do they have to find cheaper prices, or how is that working? And I guess that's just a few of the things that I found. I wasn't able to spend too much time on this, but to me, that might be ways to do it, especially when you're paying somebody $618,000. It would be nice if we could spend a little bit more of it towards actual tourism and maybe break down some of the $600 a month prices. Or, like I said, we've got enough places that we could probably put some of the tourism stuff in-house somewhere else. And if you did it somewhere else, that would be people maybe stopping at the chamber and then kind of seeing our city a little bit else, driving around to get to the other place, which I don't think would be a bad thing if we're trying to get people to come and see what we do have. And I guess I'm almost out of time, so if you could answer any of those questions or kind of give me some explanation, I'd appreciate it.
Start answering those, because he's probably got, he and Ms. Kingston probably have the most in-depth information that we get.
Okay, let me start off with the capital expenses. Generally, what we do is during the initiation of the budget, we have all of the department heads compile their request and present those to me. I begin, or whoever the city manager is at the time. We also meet with the department heads to actually assess the need for a particular project. Now, there are times that department heads will come in and say, I need a new vehicle for this month, a new trash truck, as it is. Now, Mr. Stewart is not the best example because he's been through this for a number of years, so he kind of already anticipates what I'm going to recommend cutting and what I'm not. But let's say we're dealing with a newer department head who will come in and say, I need a new vehicle. One of the things that I'm going to say is, tell me the mileage on it. Have you checked with fleet management? Do they recommend replacing the vehicle? And if they haven't, then the department head will go and talk with fleet management and then get a recommendation from the fleet manager as to whether this vehicle can wait for another year to be replaced based upon use, mileage, wear and tear, or if it's something that is a priority need. So that happens with all of the projects that are requested. The department head and I, who's making the request, prioritize based upon available funding. And then from that, we present that to the budget committee as to what the need is. Now, our final review is, as I said, we have those individual meetings with the department heads, and then at the very end, when we're almost ready to present, we have a staff meeting where all department heads are available, and we go through everybody's budget. And at that time, you know, for example, I think the last time we did it, we were maybe $500,000 over. So we had to make $500,000 of cuts. So we get everybody in the room. All right, let's go through everybody's budget. And so, you know, if you're asking for, let's use the IT department. If you're asking for a server maintenance or a new website contract for $50,000, and then you have the public works director who's in there who's patched together a vehicle that is just not going to last for another year, it's very difficult for that other department head to justify when you have all the needs in front of you. So that's how we do the capital budget, and it's been very successful, and it's been done that way since I have been here for the last 9 years. Now, luckily, in my prior role as city attorney, don't need a whole lot of capital expenses. So I've been able to watch and learn how more seasoned department heads like Gary Garvin and Mike Stewart have handled themselves in those budget discussions, particularly as it relates to prioritizing needs. You had also asked on the tourism how many people that salary pays. As far as I understand, and this is information that was given to me by the chamber, there is a full-time tourism director, Marcy Diaz, as you mentioned, and you got her name right. Then there is also a contract position that they pay for, which is Anita Bucarelli, and that is for a part-time position. And then there are 2 other full-time employees of the chamber who share tourism duties. So I believe 50% of their salaries is used to pay for that, to ensure their tourism duties. One of them I know does a lot of design things for magazines. You'd mentioned how are some of the advertising expenses used. We advertise in magazines, the newspaper, and so there are a number of design elements that this person will create, kind of a graphic designer who'll put together the ads to see what they look like, and that's a lot of what those things will go to. We also take an ad in Images magazine, which may have changed names, but I think the last one I saw was Images. We take an ad out in there, which does have a wider publication so that individuals can see what Muskogee has to offer. And then they also produce the tourism booklets that are also at the Tourist Information Center. The other thing you mentioned is location, maybe using a different city facility for housing tourism. In City Hall, we are tied up with office space. There are individuals who are crammed into offices. We simply don't have enough room, particularly since we're closing the RBE office across the street and bringing those existing employees over. You mentioned the Tourist Information Center as a possible location. That facility is established for very minimal use. It doesn't have good insulation, and so it doesn't have the necessary cooling and warming aspects that are necessary for the Oklahoma summers. Even though our winters are mild, if you're in a metal building that has minimal insulation, it's going to be very, very cold.
Civic Center?
Civic Center, that is, of course, a possibility. However, that would take away from some of the revenue that we anticipated to be generated through our contract with Spectra, because what we've engaged them to do is rent all available space in the Civic Center for supporting itself. I mean, as you probably heard our last meeting, the Spectra contract is not one that is yet cost neutral. The city does end up supplementing at the tune of about this oncoming year $340,000. So in future years, that number we anticipate being reduced based on the professional management, based on their ability to get more and higher quality acts than we have been able to get here before. But nonetheless, I think if we did relocate some portion of tourism in there, it would detract from our ability to do that. And then, let's see.
Is part of it a conference room, though, too, that we're paying for $600?
Yes. In the tourism budget that they have presented to us, they do allocate their expenses. It's not just, I mean, we do pay a flat fee for their contract administration, and then we do provide a certain level of allocation that we pay toward their operating expenses. It's essentially like a rental agreement. If tourism, the section of tourism that's working on printing or whatnot, they use the chamber copier to do that, and so the tourism budget is billed for that use, and so that's what's set aside in these individual operating expense budgets. For example, in the operating professional development is one of them. That's to send a couple of the individuals to the tourism conference that meets, and I think there is a national conference that they go to as well. And then, as you and I discussed, we do pay a portion of the 800 number, postage, part of the phones, things like that. Because if the tourism department was set up by itself as a standalone agency, we'd have to fund all those things 100%. So the idea is, of course, in contracting with the chamber, we do have some level of cost saving because we're able to share those expenses with the chamber.
Are they using 50%, though?
Sure.
Just curious. Okay.
Was there anything else?
We have pretty well exhausted our time.
I think that's it.
I tend to be wordy. I apologize for
Is that
that.
all right?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Back to item number 17. City budget. Are we ready to address a budget resolution in form of a motion? Or do we have further comments or discussion?
I would like to say appreciation to the department heads for trimming the budgets. I'd like to say appreciation to Roy and to Mike and the treasurer for the wonderful job they done on the budget. This was not a small task at all at bringing together a budget, and the detailedness that they provided to the city council and bringing it earlier on where we had budget meetings. We were able to go through it. It was thoroughly put together. We were able to go through it, to discuss it in detail. We were able to provide insight into it. They were able to modify it, bring it back to us. I just thank you so much, Roy, and the staff of the city. You made this budget process as good as it has ever been, and I want to say my sincere thank you to what you have done for the city council this year. Thank you.
You've made Gene smile in a very relaxed way. Other comments or questions?
Move for approval.
Got a
Second.
motion. We got a motion and a second. Do we want any discussion of that, or are we ready to vote? Roll call.
Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
No.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 18.
Discuss traffic signal warrant analysis of the signal at 3rd and Columbus Street and take possible action to authorize the removal of the traffic signal at said intersection and replace the same with a two-way stop sign for the north and southbound traffic.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, at the last Public Works meeting, we addressed the conflict between the traffic signal and the Gateway Arch at 3rd and Columbus. You at that meeting authorized us to get traffic engineering consultants to put together a warrant study to see if that traffic signal did meet any of the warrants. There were 3 warrants that were looked at. They're the 1-hour, 4-hour, and 8-hour traffic counts. These are the 3 volume-based warrants that apply to that intersection. They did a 24-hour review on it. It came nowhere close to meeting any of the warrants. In the letter that is in your packet, you can see where they stated that, and therefore we are asking now that that signal be addressed, and be looked at to be removed. When, if you authorize us to remove it, we'll put stop signs at 3rd Street, where 3rd Street meets Columbus. We're also going to put stop bars on 3rd Street if authorized, and we're going to spell and write the word stop on the pavement itself. What you're not seeing in the picture that's up for you to look at, to review, is that there will be stop ahead signs mid-block put up. We right now anticipate 36-inch stop signs. As we move into it, we may look at a larger sign. We could even look at the flashing solar-driven signs too, if needed. But it does not meet any of the warrants, and we do recommend the approval. Answer any questions.
If I could add one thing, Mayor. Council directed us to run this through the individuals who had expressed some concern about this. I did send, because we got the warrant study back and showed that there didn't need to be a need to relocate the gateway, I did send an email to those individuals and ask if there was a need to meet based upon the traffic study, and I heard back from several individuals who said there was no need to have a meeting, but we did share that information with them to let them know what our recommendation was and that this would be discussed tonight.
Okay.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion among council? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 19.
Consider approval of the low bid from Glover and Associates in the amount of $2,064,949.65 for the rehabilitation of 43rd Street and 45th Street, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Stewart again.
Yes, we went out for bids on this project. As you've been aware, we've been moving you along as this project has been progressing. It's being funded through the Muskogee Foundation and also through an Economic Development Grant, EDA grant. We have approximately $3 million, so 1.5 from each, and so we do have the budget for the project. Engineering will be included in that, as well as, if you saw the letter from our engineer from Tri-State, who also recommends that we set aside $250,000 for contingency type expenses. We did not address contingencies in the bid because this is an EDA grant and they do not allow that type of bidding process, but it is allowable under the bidding laws on a 10% change if needed. And we do know that there may be some issues. So if you read the engineer's letter, he did suggest we park $250,000. But even with that, the engineering fees and the inspection fees were still well under budget. So we do recommend approval. Glover and Associates is a local company. We've worked with them on many road projects, drainage basins. They're currently doing an airport project for us. They do have offices right out near there. We expect this project to go rather smoothly, and we're putting the rush on it so we can get it done through the summer months because this is an asphalt project. And all that, I do recommend approval. There's a letter from our engineer. We had two bids. The other one was 2.5, but it was considered non-responsive because there were some items in there that weren't addressed, but they still weren't the low bid Glover was. So recommend approval.
Okay. Council, got a question or comment?
As far as comment with meeting with the port, they talked very highly of how the city worked so well on this project and moving it forward, and this really shows the cooperation between City of Muskogee and the port at working with the manufacturing there, and this is just a great job of cooperation.
Marie Sinar's done an outstanding job.
Yep.
Move
It's
the
good
approval.
team effort.
Mike, where's actually, I'm maybe off a little bit, 43rd Street and 45th Street?
This project is 43rd Street, which is the first street east of the Muskogee Turnpike. It runs between Chandler and Hancock. And then 45th Street is the one that actually runs in front of GP, Georgia Pacific.
Okay. And my question with that is I know there's a motion on the table. We're going back to asphalt with it?
Yes.
Okay. If I remember right, didn't we wasn't there asphalt on this road in the beginning, and because of the heavy truck use from what's the road construction crew out there?
First of all, 43rd Street is the one closest to the turnpike. It's the first street east of the turnpike. It had more of a chip seal and sandstone base, and it does have Glover asphalting on it. It has the concrete place, and it's
Capital.
slipping me right now.
Isn't it Capital Concrete or Central? I'm sorry, Central Mortar.
Central Mortar and
Yeah.
Grout.
Okay.
And then 45th Street has always been asphalt.
Okay.
The city actually put it down in the 80s, and it's still fairly sound. So we feel like the base that's underneath it will be very well. If you'll notice that they're both about the same amount of money, $900,000 apiece for the rebuilds, and we did go out and specifically address the methods for 43rd. We think 45th Street will take an asphalt well. 43rd is going to take some more extensive base work. But if you look at the bid items, there's fabric that's in there and different
Okay,
details.
because my concern is that, you know, okay, Glover and them put their construction crew, their road crew company out there, correct? And then the grout and seal place, whatever, they put theirs out there. Glad both of them are out there. But is it the best? I mean, the asphalt that's there, will it hold up to the trucks that tore it up in the first place? I mean, as much trucks and stuff were going out of there. I remember watching that road start crumbling away and breaking up. Should we go back to an asphalt finish on a road that we know won't hold up to it?
We have, if you'll notice, it's where the turning movements are, where the road's actually breaking down. And I'm glad you brought that point up, because there is concrete where the turning movements are going to be. Once those trucks get going straight and the base is substantial, there's enough asphalt that will hold them up. So we did address that. We are beefing the turning movements up by putting them in concrete.
Okay.
Other comments or questions?
Second.
So we got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
No.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item 20.
Consider approval to authorize staff to submit for the 2016 COPS grant application titled Community Oriented Policing Services Hiring Program, or take other necessary action.
Chief.
Mr. Mayor, Council, we discovered this grant, I should say Mike Miller and Deputy Chief Cotton discovered this grant just only last week. And the deadline for applying for this is June the 23rd of 2016. However, we would like to go ahead and apply for this grant. There's only about 200 of them given a year. But this would allow us to grow our community policing officer program. Right now, we're just kind of static with that because our turnover rate has been something that we've had to deal with in almost every division, and it just hadn't allowed for the kind of growth that we want in there. And what this grant would do would allow us to hire 4 additional officers that we would have to, not necessarily those officers, but we would have to grow our community policing officer program by the same number. And in terms of cost, to kind of give you a brief overview, to hire 4 would cost about $218,000. The COPS hiring grant would pay about $164,000 of that total cost. So actually, we'd be getting 4, and we'd have to pay for 1, which would be about $54,000. So our turnover rate would probably have enough to do with finding money. The big question is, how would we develop the equipment needs? But if we had a little more time, we could look into this thing. But I need to be able to put in an application for these positions by June the 23rd. So I apologize for being so abrupt in this issue, but this is I think a strong grant that would help us a lot.
I
Chief
applaud
Eskridge.
you. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Chief Eskridge, I appreciate y'all going after this grant because community-based policing is probably one of the best things that we can do for our community and our police department. And at this point, I mean, I would love for y'all to get this, and I hope y'all get it. So I'm going to move for approval.
There's about 200 a year that they award. For some reason, Muskogee kind of falls between the cracks. We're not big enough to be a big city, and we're not small enough to be a small city. And when we apply for grants, we're kind of competing with the larger organizations, so it's really difficult for us. But this is something that we're already doing, and we want to enhance our operations. We've got a lot of things going on, but we just don't have the manpower that we need to develop all of the issues that we're wanting to.
And that was a motion, okay, and a second?
And I was going to basically say the same thing Councilor Hall said, that I really appreciate that, because I think that we can do a whole lot more in our community if we had a stronger COPS program, because I know that it's such a benefit when the officers get to know the community, and it's also a good benefit when the community knows the officers.
Absolutely.
And so I think Mr. Tucker should keep us abreast of what we need to do to help make up the difference if necessary, to be certain that we can get the 4 that we actually would need. And I think this is a really, really good program.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We got a motion and a second. Any other comments? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item 21.
Consider accepting donation of real property at 117 South G Street from Wells Fargo, Heather Upaw, Northeast Region Asset Manager, to the City of Muskogee, with a $10,000 concession to be paid to the city by the donor, or take other necessary action.
Good
Mr.
evening.
Miller?
Yes, this is a parcel of property actually across the street from Spalding Park that Wells Fargo would like to donate to the city. They are going to give us some cash along with it. That cash would offset improvements that need to be made to the property. Our code enforcement people have been out there. There's a structure on the property. It's likely that we would need to tear the structure down, but this would more than cover the estimated costs of that. And this property is across from the park. Both the planning department and the parks department see it as a potential asset to the city, and so we would suggest approval.
Move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman. Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item 22.
Consider approval of confirming the Board of County Commissioners' appointment of Daniel Miller to serve the remainder of the unexpired term of Charles Randolph to the Muskogee City County Trust Port Authority from May 23, 2016 through August 30, 2019, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mayor, members of the council, as you may recall, the Muskogee City County Trust Authority has in its trust indenture a requirement that any appointments made by the county be approved by the city, and any appointments made by the city be approved by the county. In this instance, we received notification that Mr. Randolph had resigned from his position on the trust authority, and the Board of County Commissioners has recommended approval of Daniel Miller to fill that role. Happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any comments or discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We have one person that had signed up to speak to an issue that was not an agenda item, Renee Myers. If you'd approach the microphone, give us your name and your address, and we'll be happy to hear from you.
Renee Myers, 801 West Okmulgee, Muskogee Public Library. On April 30th, we had our 6th annual Touch a Truck event. It is a fundraising event for our children's department, and it gives us funding for year-round programming and outreach to give out books for families so they can keep them and develop their own libraries at home. I wanted to thank the city for providing 20-plus trucks and equipment that the kids got to play on and explore that day. And a special thank you to Mike Stewart and Francie Martin for helping us participate in bringing this program together. And that's all I have to say.
How much money did you raise?
About $10,000.
Oh, that's fantastic.
1,700 people participated and came in.
I know Mike and Francie are both excited about that program every year.
And we had 500 sign up for summer reading the first week.
Great.
Yes.
Appreciate your
All
comment.
right, thank you very much.
Now go to item number 23.
Consider an executive session to discuss and take possible action on the following. A, pursuant to Section 307C10, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to the economic development within the city of Muskogee and taking any necessary action in open session. B, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 95, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. C, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local Number 2465, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. D, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. E, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss the IAFF grievance of 4/6 of 15 arbitration demand and potential litigation, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. F, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss the workers' compensation claim of Eric Nielsen and Gary Cartwright, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session.
Wow.
Move for approval.
It's a lot of items. Got a motion and a second for executive session. Is there any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We'll now consider ourselves in executive session. If you would excuse us from the council chambers, please. We'll now reconvene out of executive session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Items 23A through F.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to Section 307C10, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council did convene an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development within the city of Muskogee, and after being fully briefed, no action is necessary. Item B, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council did convene an executive session to discuss negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 95, and after being fully briefed, no action is necessary. Item C, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council did convene an executive session to discuss negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, Local 2465, and after being fully briefed, no action is necessary. Item D, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council did convene an executive session to discuss negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local 57, and after being fully briefed, no action is necessary. Item E, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council did convene an executive session to discuss the IAFF grievance of 4/6/15, the arbitration demand and potential litigation related thereto, and after being fully briefed, I believe a motion would be appropriate, authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement with Margaret Love, and further authorizing the filing of necessary related litigation to protect the interests of the city in this matter.
So move.
Second.
Get a motion and a second. Is there a comment or discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item F.
Pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council did convene an executive session to discuss the workers' compensation claim of Eric Nielsen and Garrett Cartwright. After being fully briefed, I believe a motion would be appropriate, authorizing the settlement of Eric Nielsen's claim in the amount of $28,262.50, and Gary Cartwright's claim, a settlement in the amount of $10,000.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries, and that concludes our agenda for this evening's meeting. Thank you.